Hey, welcome back, everybody. Happy Sunday and happy Father's Day to everyone out there. So definitely make sure, to wish somebody happy Father's Day yourself. And if you are a dad, then of course, thank you so much for all that you do. And even if you're not a dad and you just kind of are that father figure in someone's life, again, we appreciate you just as much. Being a dad is a lot more than a biological thing. So either way, though, again, happy Father's Day to everyone. Now, we do have a lot to discuss in today's video as the tropics are really starting to pick back up here, and this is something we kind of expected, and I talked about this earlier this week in that video I posted, but things are definitely getting more interesting out there with two separate areas that we need to watch for the potential of tropical development, both of which have the potential to directly impact the lower 48. And I'll tell you who that is that could be impacted and exactly what those impacts will be in today's video. Now, if you haven't already subscribed, definitely consider doing so. Like the video if you like it, and of course, comment, let me know where you're watching from and what you're seeing. And unfortunately, a lot of us are just seeing a lot of heat out there, and I'll show you that on the map here in a second as well, and we will briefly discuss that heat wave in today's video and exactly why it's happening and potentially how long it could last. With all that said, though, again, let's go ahead and jump on into things and kind of start talking about what we're working with out here. Now, satellite imagery, just taking a look at good old-fashioned cloud cover. Obviously, clouds in the white on your map, and anything that's not white is clear skies. So you'll kind of already see the pattern that's setting up shop pretty well on satellite imagery this Sunday. It's all really being dominated by this big area of high pressure over the East Coast, and it's kind of got flow like this right now. So, anywhere under it, things are relatively nicer, a bit calmer, but on the outside fringe here, look at all of these areas of thunderstorms that are kind of running into this high pressure and having to move around it. And this big high pressure, and I'll show it to you in a different map here in just a second, is going to be so crucial to our forecast over the next 7 to 10 days. And this is also one of those reasons that we could be dealing with tropical trouble, getting kind of stuck in the lower 48 compared to maybe meandering out to sea. And again, we'll take a look at all that here in just a moment. Now, taking a look at watches, warnings, advisories, and radar imagery as well, you'll notice, again, quite active out here. And again, you can really just see the high pressure just on a radar map and our watches and warnings. Again, here it is. As I mentioned, here's kind of that ring of fire effect, if you will, just meaning kind of these waves of thunderstorms on the outside of that high pressure as these boundaries are kind of clashing against each other. But under that high pressure, all these areas in red are under excessive heat watches for this afternoon. So again, it is hot. It is muggy. It's feeling like summer, in fact, to a dangerous level for a lot of folks out here. So, if you're not accustomed to the heat, if it's something your body can't handle well, maybe you struggle to stay hydrated, you got to take those precautions this afternoon as, again, this is just, one of those really hot summer days, and we're getting pretty late into June now. So, again, this is something that is going to become more of a common theme as we get deeper into summer. But again, already seeing those effects, even in a place like Boston, a really hot day, but really all of Ohio, much of Pennsylvania, West Virginia, southern Michigan, and a big section there of eastern Indiana, including places like Cincinnati and there along the Kentucky border. It's going to be hot today. And again, all of that is due to this high pressure, just allowing for that sinking motion in the atmosphere, clearing the skies out, letting that sun and those dew points really rise up, again, leading to a very high feels-like temperature. All right, I want to show this to you again in just a different way because, again, this high pressure is so important, or this ridge, you may hear that word used as well to describe this weather pattern. And again, it's just very important in kind of decoding what we're seeing here for many folks across the country. So here it is, this big area of kind of orange on your map. That's our high pressure. Again, right now centered kind of over portions of the mid-Atlantic, and I should probably use a different color so you can see it a little bit better. But here we go, and watch what happens as we move through this week. Again, this is getting into Monday and Tuesday already, but notice how this really strengthens and really just blobs out a lot here. And we're going to have a very strong high pressure for a lot of folks over much of the Ohio River Valley and into the northeastern United States and even up into eastern Canada, Quebec and Ontario. Big time heat wave also likely on the way for you folks as this kind of general pattern sets up shop. And another reason this is important is look at this map. Obviously, as I mentioned, here's our big high pressure, and you'll notice we get flow like this around high pressure, as I mentioned. And look at kind of what gets stuck under this high pressure. I'm going to draw two areas on our map here. We've got multiple areas in the tropics that are trying to organize and form into some sort of maybe tropical depression, potentially tropical storm. And due to this high pressure, that is going to get either pushed into the United States, depending on what low we're talking about, or pulled up into the United United States, again on the other side of this high pressure. So kind of unfortunate timing here with a combination of these three areas are really going to work into tandem to bring tropical impacts to part of the country. But there is one silver lining here. Those tropical impacts are going to help to kind of beat down on some of this heat that we're going to have to worry about. Again, this is this afternoon. Feels like temperatures or the heat index, we're passing 100 in a lot of places here into portions of the Great Plains, up into the Ohio River Valley, widespread 90s and getting close to 100 with a lot of these heat indexes. And this isn't a one-day problem. That's Sunday afternoon. This is Monday afternoon. Look at this. Going into tomorrow, the Ohio River Valley really begins to bake up here, and it's going to get hot very quickly. Now, one thing I want you to notice is these kind of splotches down here into portions of the Mississippi River Valley down into the deep south. These are areas of thunderstorms developing that are, again, obviously helping to bring the temperature down. Excuse me. And that is one good thing about this high pressure's placement. Again, it's right here. So once we get to this side of the high pressure, this is actually air coming out of the south. So again, that's going to bring up the humidity, bring up the dew point, but also it's going to bring up the precipitable water, and we're going to be able to get some afternoon thunderstorms. And honestly, a lot of that is going to get pulled out of this tropical disturbance in the Gulf to help, kind of cool things off a little bit. But with that, a flooding threat will be something we need to monitor. So that was Monday afternoon. We get into Tuesday afternoon here. Again, more of the same, very hot weather, even into Wednesday afternoon. Look at this really kicking up in the Northeast in the Ohio River Valley. Again, widespread heat index values well past 90, getting up near 100 degrees for many folks, even up into Ontario and Quebec. And that's going to continue through this week for a lot of folks before eventually, again, we're going to get some tropical moisture to work into portions of the map here that are going to help to cool things down. So, ironically enough, it could be one of those weeks where it's a lot hotter and a lot drier and a lot less fun for someone up in New York State compared to maybe South Georgia or the Louisiana coastline, where we're just going to have a little bit more tropical, disturbances to help, change things down. And even potentially, we could see the dew points even get brought down a little bit with one of these tropical systems, which I know kind of sounds counterintuitive, but we're going to have kind of some dry air from this high pressure getting ingested into some of these tropical systems, and it's just going to make for quite an interesting forecast. But I'll show you the dew point map here in the forecast. Again, into this Sunday afternoon for Father's Day, it's going to be muggy for a lot of folks. Again, up the Mississippi River Valley, a little bit more tolerable in the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, but don't get too excited because eventually that high pressure is going to shift locations a little bit, and getting into Monday and Tuesday, just about everyone is in on the muggy mess here with, again, dew points getting well up into the 70s and 60s for a lot of communities. Now, this is going to continue for a little bit, but you'll notice, again, as I mentioned, as we get a little bit further into this week, just due to the placement of this high pressure, it's actually going to pull in a little bit of dry air on the backside. And notice this infusion of dew points back down into the 50s for portions of the Carolinas, Virginia, and the Deep South. So, again, it's going to be a weird week. It might feel nicer in Atlanta, Georgia than parts of Quebec. So, if you're in the Southeast, take this with a grain of salt, be happy and run with it, because it's not often that we're on the lucky side of the humidity battle, but that very well could be the case for parts of this week. Again, this is Tuesday afternoon, getting into Wednesday afternoon. Again, the mid-Atlantic kind of holding on to lower dew point values as some dry air tries to funnel in. And that'll be something we watch. But again, I think by the time the week is over, things are going to change. We're going to get back to reality with widespread higher dew points coming back out of the Gulf and the Atlantic. And again, it's going to start to feel like summer once more. All right, so what does this mean in terms of precipitation? Well, let me go ahead and back this map up for you. Really, the big theme here is going to be anywhere on the edges of this high pressure are going to have the highest chances of precipitation. So Sunday afternoon and into Monday afternoon, again, here's that high pressure, and anywhere kind of on the fringes here are going to be the places that have the greatest shot of seeing some rainfall. And again, especially anywhere that kind of gets some of that moisture pulled out of that Gulf disturbance, going to have even higher chances of rain. So this is Monday afternoon. Getting into Tuesday afternoon, again, you'll notice here's that kind of boundary setting up shop here, where we are going to have higher precipitation chances. And again, this is extending all the way down from the Gulf up into portions of Canada, just kind of this conveyor belt of moisture. That is going to help to, one, again, increase dew points, but also increase the chance for some afternoon thunderstorms. Wednesday afternoon, again, more of the same here with that conveyor belt, and then things get interesting going later into the week as, again, some tropical disturbances could, wreak havoc a little bit on the precipitation outlook, but we'll dive into that a little bit more here in a second. But before we do that, let's quickly talk about severe weather. Again, it is summertime. We've still got that heat, humidity, and some wind shear overlapping it, especially in the northern tier of the country, which is something we're a lot more accustomed to in June. Again, it's supposed to be a little bit more severe up there compared to the south, where we're lacking some wind shear. But today, slight risk of severe weather from Minneapolis over through Wisconsin, back through the Dakotas, specifically South Dakota, I guess, and into northern Nebraska. That does include the threat of a couple isolated tornadoes. We'll do it all again tomorrow with many of the same areas under the gun for severe weather. Again, just on that edge of that high pressure where we have enough instability and leftover wind shear kind of interacting here for our Monday afternoon. And then Tuesday afternoon, another threat of severe weather through much of Minnesota, Iowa, and even back down into some of the Corn Belt there. So again, watching that, and something that a lot of you folks in that part of the country are pretty accustomed to at this point. Alrighty, so I know I was going to show this map, and honestly, I think we've kind of already discussed everything that I was going to talk about in this map, so we can move on from that one and move on to the next map here. Alright, so again, many of you probably here for the hurricane part of this, or maybe not even hurricane, just the tropical update, I guess is probably the better way to word it, as we don't have really any hurricanes to track right now, or the threat, I think, of anything getting to that strength, at least within the near term. But we do nonetheless have two areas of interest that we need to watch here. So one down here into the Bay of Campeche, again from the Yucatan kind of up the Mexico coastline there along the Gulf Coast. Again, this area running at a 60% chance of developing within the next 7 days. So that's a better chance it does develop than it does not develop here from the National Hurricane Center. And again, if this does develop, likely here in between Texas and the Yucatan Peninsula, that general area, likely to see something. Another area that is new, that was just added, I want to say yesterday or this morning, is this area. This is running a 30% chance of developing into a named tropical system here off the coast of Florida and kind of through the Bahamas within the next 7 days. So again, getting into June, two separate areas to watch, and let's go ahead and talk about them a little bit more in depth here. So current satellite imagery, here is that area off the coast of Florida where it currently is, and here is kind of just this mess of precipitation and disorganized showers and thunderstorms over the Yucatan Peninsula currently. Now what is going to happen is this area here is going to, again, kind of get pulled back around thanks to that high pressure and towards the general direction of Florida, and could even be something more like this potentially, but again, we'll talk about the track in a second here. And then that second area, again, over the Yucatan Peninsula, likely, again, eventually, thanks to that southerly flow coming up from that high pressure, going to get tugged northward here, and likely to make I guess landfall, if you will, at least if we do have a closed low pressure system, probably somewhere into northern Mexico or southern Texas. But the bigger deal will be all of that precipitation getting pulled up northward towards Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and up the Mississippi River Valley, thanks to that high pressure and that work in the Gulf with all of that precipitation. Again, going to kind of work in tandem here. All right, so what kind of strength are we talking about here? What kind of timing are we talking about? What kind of track are we talking about? Well, our latest European ensemble members from this morning, again, run all their kind of solutions here, and these are the most likely tracks for some sort of tropical system. So you'll notice one kind of up here, again, getting pulled up towards Texas and then kind of curving back towards Mexico or southern Texas. That one, again, relatively weak here, could maybe get to tropical storm strength, but again, that looks to kind of be the ceiling here. This new area, again, likely to develop somewhere near the Bahamas. It could stay an open wave. It could close to a tropical system. Again, unfortunately, we're just going to need to watch it a little bit here. But again, the track on that one likely somewhere into portions of Florida, maybe even southern Georgia. Some of the models have been a little bit further north with that. And you can see that here with the GFS ensembles. Again, agreeing good here. Something likely to get pulled up towards the Mexico-Texas border. And then that second area that's probably of a little bit more interest, I think, to most folks, again, tracks a little bit further north on the GFS, more of a Georgia, South Carolina, northern Florida kind of track here. And you'll even notice some of these members are getting into, mid-grade tropical system, mid-grade tropical storm, I should say. So, again, definitely need to watch all of that. Now, if we time this out a little bit for you here, we'll start with our GFS model here, again from this morning, kind of hot off the press here. Let's move this into Tuesday afternoon. So you'll notice, again, multiple players on the field here that we're working with. This is that area out near the Bahamas, and at this point, already getting kind of closed. So this could be a tropical depression here, kind of teetering between tropical depression and open wave. But again, it looks like we have a closed isobar there, so definitely could be a tropical depression. And then another area that, while bigger and maybe, having more precipitation, is a little bit more elongated in nature into, again, the Gulf of Mexico, getting kind of pulled up towards Texas and portions of the northern Mexican coastline. Again, this is Tuesday afternoon. We move this ahead into our Wednesday afternoon, and again, you'll notice just kind of disorganized but widespread energy over that area of Mexico and Texas, again, likely bringing some rainfall with it. But at the same time, we're now getting a bit more of a closed low. Again, couple isobars closed now here, and a little bit more of an organized system tracking towards Florida Wednesday afternoon here and into Thursday. And eventually, on the GFS model, this makes landfall near Jacksonville as likely a tropical storm on this run from this morning. And again, this will be Thursday afternoon, so we've got some time to track this. We're at Sunday now. We've got a good 4 or 5 days to watch this wave, watch how it progresses, and watch how it evolves. And then eventually the GFS kind of pulls this into the deep south where it could bring some rainfall. All right, that's the GFS Euro starting at the same time Tuesday afternoon. Similar story, big elongated area of energy in the Bay of Campeche. And then again, well, if I could draw over the actual right area. And again, open wave at this point on Tuesday afternoon here into portions of the Atlantic. Now, moving this further ahead into time, you'll notice the European is just a tad weaker with both. Again, definitely an area of energy over near Texas and Mexico, a little bit further south in this run of the European. Again, that likely bringing a lot of rainfall, that being the main threat. And then this area, again, tracking towards Florida, and at the end, again, making landfall, if we will, kind of near Jacksonville late Thursday, as potentially a tropical depression, maybe still just an open tropical wave, again, kind of teetering on the boundary there between the two, but either way would likely bring some rainfall, maybe some gusty winds, and if it is stronger, like some of our model solutions have suggested, maybe even a little bit of storm surge and some severe weather threat we could definitely have to worry about. Now, what's the bottom line here? Well, the bottom line is a lot of tropical moisture is going to get funneled in somewhere, specifically from that Gulf system. Again, as I mentioned, here's high pressure, and as I also talked about with the dew points earlier, look at this dry air getting funneled into the Carolinas, but on the opposite side of that, sorry, I thought my phone was ringing there, but it is not. What were we talking about? Yeah, dew points and precipitation. Anyway, as I was mentioning, high pressure right here, and here's that flow around it. But again, you get to a certain point where that flow then shifts out of the south. So that area in the Gulf is in a prime position to really funnel in a lot of precipitable water out of the Gulf and up into portions of Texas and Louisiana. As I move this ahead, this is into Tuesday and into Wednesday. And look at all this tropical energy, again, getting funneled up into Texas and Louisiana, eventually up into Oklahoma and Arkansas, and even back around towards the Ohio River Valley. On the flip side of that coin, though, again, dry air on the backside of this high pressure getting funneled into the southeast where our potential tropical storm is moving. Now, generally speaking, these storm systems really struggle with dry air, and that isn't conducive for them to develop any stronger. But this one, you'll notice kind of on the inflow side of it, is getting enough precipitation here and enough instability that some thunderstorms could persist. And eventually, if I can get the website to work, there we go. Eventually, again, kind of barreling towards the southeast coastline on this run of the GFS. So again, 1,009 millibars is not very strong. This would be a very weak grade tropical storm, maybe even a tropical depression. But again, it is wrapping up enough precipitation here that we could see some rain that we're going to definitely need in portions of Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, and portions of the southeast. And potentially, if this could get strong enough and get enough wind energy with it, generally, when these tropical systems are ingesting dry air like this, they are known to produce some severe weather, including maybe the potential of a tornado or two. But don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Just know, no matter what right now, the bigger deal is going to be the rainfall potential from this, and you can see that pretty well on our next map here. that rainfall is definitely going to be on the uptrend, especially back towards Texas and Louisiana. Again, like I said, that Gulf area is really in a prime position to pull up a lot of Gulf moisture thanks to that high pressure and just kind of the flow in the atmosphere currently. So again, latest blend of models now through next Monday, so about a week or so. Some of these coastal communities in Texas could be getting near double-digit rainfall, so maybe not quite as bad as we saw in South Florida earlier this week, but again, a very similar process nonetheless, where a lot of that moisture is going to get pulled northward. And then you'll even notice back here towards the Georgia coastline, southern South Carolina, and into Florida, that area also going to bring precipitation, just likely less of it, as again, it's going to be fighting some dry air. And then also, again, up here on the edge of that ring of fire, as I mentioned earlier, higher rainfall totals, upwards of potentially a half a foot of rain, not out of the question through the next week, through portions of Minnesota and Wisconsin. And then, not hard to find the high pressure here. Obviously, this big area of lesser rainfall totals in the heart of the eastern half of the country. Again, going to be something we need to watch as well for potential drought concerns. Alrighty, so again, discussed a lot in today's video. Definitely getting active out there with some tropical systems on the horizon, and definitely, going to continue to monitor those threats, and we'll keep you updated. So again, if you don't already follow me on social media, Twitter's a great place to reach me and kind of, see some posts about the weather and other nonsense, I guess. Or I guess we're calling it X now. But either way, you get the point. You can follow me on there, which is linked in the description and probably many other places on the channel. So, or you can just look up my name on Twitter, which is right. Let's see. Can I point at it? Oh, there we go. That's my name. So awesome. Anyway, hope you all have a great rest of your Father's Day, and I'll see you all next time.